could not give you the second part without giving you the first part first. So we're going to do the first and the second part.
This is an ancient Brittonic tale that has travelled across much space and much time, has still been told even unto this very day, here and now. This is the cauldron of Ceridwen,
also known as the birth of Taliesin. So we shall begin.
Take it away, Will.
There is a lake in Wales which was once called Llyn Tegid. Its cold waters came, wave upon wave, to wash the shores, where in earlier times a valley had been, rich with green, with gentle slopes and grazing herds of cattle. There was a town in the valley which bore the name Bala.
A sparkling stream had flowed across the land, and blessed was the soul who drank from its waters. Its source, shadowed by alder and hazel bushes, was a sacred spring, well known to young and old alike for its healing powers.
To honour the source, Druids had established a shrine bearing the emblem of a head, and artisans had built a well to contain the spring. On days of festivity and celebration, the great lid was opened and the sacred waters flowed from the deep.
Alas, one fateful day a priest forgot his duties and forgot to seal the gateway that led into the depths. That night, the waters surged forth, flooding the laden hillside, rushing forth in foam-crested torrents to devour the land that had confined them.
By daybreak, all was transformed. Gone were the meadows, gone the cattle, gone the houses, and the trees. In its place, a dark lake stretched out, its gleaming surface veiling a sunken land.
Aye, in the time of Arthur, there was a castle built beside the lake, and noble folk lived within it. Some say this story happened in an island in the lake. The lady of the house was named Ceridwen, which meant fair and beloved, but it could also mean crooked woman.
She was a sorceress, wise in the spells of the elder days. Her lord was called Tegid the Bald, and between them they had 2 children. Their daughter was a happy child. Her name was Criru, meaning the dear one, and everyone loved her for her friendly nature.
Their son was the very opposite in looks and behaviour. He was named Morfran, meaning great crow, as his voice resembled a screech. And when he grew and people came to recognise his lack of wits, they named him Avakthi, meaning utter darkness.
As the children grew, the Lady Ceridwen was beset by worries.
What would become of the children in the future?
Criru, bright in appearance, radiant with light, would have an easy life, for she could bend the desires of men as she willed.
But what would become of Avakthi, crouching in the twilight, muttering madly to himself?
The Lady Ceridwen thought long and deep.
She searched for signs, spoke with the spirits, and consulted the books of the wise. The answer was there, as it was written across the starlit skies and whispered in the leaves of the trees. She resolved to brew a cauldron of inspiration and wisdom, a cauldron of spells and sorceries to enlighten her dark-side child. To do this, she set up a hut.
No.
No?
9-fold are the essences that join within the cauldron, and 9 times 9 the rites that work the binding. Or the magic of the year is stirred into the cauldron, and a year and a day is the time required to brew.
Do forgive me, my dear. Most vital was that part. To do this, she set up a cauldron, far from the ways of the mortals. There, she tended her hut, but new worries beset her. Who would look after the fire and stir the broth while she was out collecting rare ingredients in secret places?
A lucky twist of fate brought her the help she needed. 2 hungry mouths.
Roving they were.
Yes, they were roving.
Roving
They were roving the midsummer's roads. Indeed, it was a very, very dusty road, as I remember. It was a dusty old road, and there was an old blind man. That's right, there was an old blind man named Morder. That's right, and he was led by a young man of bright looks and quick wits named Bach, meaning fair and small. Indeed, those 2 chaps, yes.
2 hungry moves, 2 hungry mouths roving the midsummer roads, glad of a little hospitality. Lady Cadwyn approached them with a sly smile. Would they care for a place to sleep, a bed of soft reeds, and as much food as they could eat? They eagerly offered, and eagerly accepted.
Keeping the fire and stirring the broth, even if for a year and a day, was a better life than leading a blind old man on an aimless journey, begging for food and shelter, and often doing without even that.
Gwion made his home by the fireside, near the monstrous iron cauldron that squatted in the gloom like a hungry iron geese.
Soon the merry fire was dancing on the hearth in the hall. And while old Morder stretched out to do some serious sleeping, and Apathy was playing in the ashes, the Lady Cadwyn set out to gather all the wisdom of the world.
Aye, day after day and night after night, Gwion kept the fire burning bright. Week after week and moon after moon, the Lady Cadwyn returned with roots and blossoms that she cast into the seething fluid.
The great wheel of the year revolved, season following upon season. Mists came, rain followed, and early snowfall cloaked the land with frozen beauty.
Winter came. Snowstorms howled around the hut, and while old Morder grew fat and feeble-minded, Gwion was left alone with Avakthi by the fireside. Who knows the ways the minds work in the twilight? Black the hand that stirs in the cauldron, black the face that watches in the gloom. Was it Gwion or Avakthi dreaming by the fireside?
Long lasted the winter, the season of the winter frosts.
Until spring came. Leaves cascaded from birch and elder, singing a song to the newly awakening land. Young Gwion stirred the cauldron, drunk on the twilight. And he's still stirring.
It doesn't look like it's there. Very good.
The Lady Cadwyn was out gathering rare ingredients in secret places. Still she went out a searching, Still she came back a-finding. Still young Gwion tended the fireside. Still the cauldron kept a-bubbling. Until one fateful day, Gwion was dozing fitfully in the ashes.
When all of a sudden, the broth overflowed. Foaming liquid.
Frothing and hissing.
Frothing and hissing.
And hissing and frothing. Foaming.
And all of a sudden,
And hissing and frothing.
3 drops of baneful elixir came
flying out.
flying out. They did. They flew out.
3 drops of baneful elixir that burnt the thumb of young Gwion, startling him, rousing him from his slumber.
With a yell,
He popped his thumb.
in his mouth, and as the drops touched his tongue, a flooded insight, all new, all wild, and all chaotic, overwhelmed his mind and shattered his senses.
All the wisdom, all the cunning, all the understanding in the whole wide world. Poor Gwion. What could he do? Prisoner of visions, talked in a speech that has no words. The Awan consumed him, flying forth his soul and his mind, plus endless wings of black nothingness through the eternal spirals of time.
Indeed, Gwion had not expected this to happen. He had not expected this to happen.
Pray tell. He has staggered from the fireside, overwhelmed by the new cascadings of his mind, and he rolled out into the new bright fields. What made the sky so blue? What made
The grass so green, and the flowers so unique. Something had clearly happened. But there in the distance,
a thought suddenly came to him? What of the ruined fire, the shattered cauldron, the precious holy elixir of wisdom that had passed crooked-wise to the wrong drinker?
he could see a shadow in the distance, and it was coming towards him. It was coming towards him, it was getting closer.
There cometh the mad and wild sorceress, running with hatred in her eyes and death in her hand.